Hello, good afternoon, and a very warm welcome indeed to today's iOB business webinar. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on here. My name is Ben, and I'm the resident business coach here at iOB Business. Now, to talk you through today's webinar, how it's going to run, we're going to cover three main topics as we always do. All right. And in between each of those three main topics, we're going to give a brief pause so that you have time to jot down any notes and indeed ask away with any questions that you may wish to ask as well. It's always a pleasure to answer them, so please don't be shy. You're more than welcome to ask away with any questions that you have. Now, you can ask questions at any point throughout the webinar, and we'll get them for you during the Q&A session at the end of today's webinar session. If you would like to do so, you can ask questions with the Q&A button at the bottom of this screen there. All right, so welcome everybody that's with us now. Pleasure to see you. All right. For those of you that are joining us for the first time, welcome, welcome. It's great to have you here. And for those of you joining us again, pleasure to have you back. All right, so let's go ahead and switch off the video camera and we will share the presentation that we have up on the screen there for you in just a moment's time. Perfect. So we're all set. If I could please just ask a big favor before we get kicked off on today's webinar session, just let me know that you can hear my voice okay, and do indeed let me know that you can also see the presentation that we have up on screen for you there as well. As long as you can see that okay, then I will know that we are ready to rock. Okay, so today's topic of conversation, what do digital agency clients need? So we're going to talk about how you can really help your business grow or your potential future business grow by understanding exactly what the clients of a digital agency would need from you and from your business. Okay, so all good, Ben. Excellent. Okay, great. Thank you very much. So let's get kicked off then. So as we mentioned earlier, my name is Ben. I'm a business coach and I do exactly this. I help businesses achieve stability and growth. Okay, it's a genuine passion, it's a genuine pleasure. And as I'm sure you can tell, I'm always so happy to be on these webinars presenting this content to you. So I hope that you absolutely love today's webinar and I hope that you gain an immense amount of value from it as well. So let's talk about our discussion points today. Number one, we're going to be running through a clarity on a growth plan segment. Okay, we're going to be really figuring out what it means for our clients to have total clarity on what it is they need done for them and what we can do for them as well. We're going to talk about continual contact. We're going to talk about establishing consistency in the way that you behave with your clients and the way they behave with you. And finally, reassurance and indeed faith in your ability as well. Okay, so three really good topics of conversation to talk about here, beginning with number one, clarity on a growth plan. Okay, so let's talk about why it's important. Clients hire agencies often because they have a specific plan in mind. Okay, so what's really important to understand when we are in a business to business industry, right? Now, if you've seen the term B2B written as the letter B, number two, and then the letter B again, that means business to business. And what that means in essence is that we are a business working with another business. So they would therefore be defined as our ideal client or target market, however that was being defined at the time. Okay. Now that we have clarity on that, we can talk about why these businesses may be looking to work with us. And often it's because they have a specific plan or a specific objective that they're trying to reach. And they realize that we are very likely the people and the business that can help them achieve said plan, said objective, said goal. Now, why it's extremely important for us to remember that this is the case is because it's very easy to perhaps get overly involved in our own ideas or potentially ways that we think we could, do this or do that or help them grow or help them establish something else. Now, if we always bear in mind the simple fact that they will have their own plan in mind and they'll have something specific that they want to achieve, it really helps us get behind them, their vision and their goal. And it really is important to remember that the main reason, or probably one of the main reasons that they hired us, will simply be because they have a specific plan, objective, or goal in mind that they want to hit. Okay, so therefore it is our responsibility as digital agency owners to do our part in our client's overall growth plan. Now, your client might come to you and say, well, Ben, I would like to achieve an extra, 200,000 this year. Okay. Now, whilst you might think, well, why are they telling me how much money they want to make? Okay. Well, Fair enough. It's a fair point that, their responsibility financially is in essence their own, but they might be sharing these figures with you because they understand your crucial part in making those figures happen. For example, if you're going to design them a better website, that should enhance the amount of traffic that they get on their website and therefore the amount of potential customers or clients that visit their website. Things like social media, again, it's marketing, it's outreach, it's brand awareness, it's brand reputation management. Again, paid advertising, that's more of a direct investment to a direct return. Okay. Again, contributing to the overall growth plan. So it's our responsibility not only to help them achieve, what we can in terms of that growth plan, but we also want to be making sure that we are recommending the best ways to do this in line with what it is that they want to do. Okay. And we're fully understanding our part and our role in helping them achieve that. So clarity on a growth plan is very, very important. And they might have a bigger plan and we're simply a part of that plan. And that's brilliant because when a client has a specific idea of what they want to achieve, it makes our jobs easier to define the path to that plan. What we don't want to do is not really have any kind of end goal in mind, not really have anything established, because then we don't really have anything to measure against. We don't know truly if we've been able to achieve what it is that they wanted us to achieve because we didn't set specific achievables. And therefore, we really have no marker or milestone to say, yep, we did that well, or no, we could have done that better. Okay, so speak through your client's goals with them and review them monthly to ensure that your plan is as accurate as possible in order to do your part in your client's greater plan. Okay, now the reason that we say this is because ideas change, plans change, concepts change, objectives change. It's very, very easy to kind of veer off track if your client has sort of had a conversation perhaps internally with their own team and they've sort of not necessarily forgotten to involve you, but they haven't necessarily thought to mention that they have an actually, potentially a different idea on where they want to go with their business. All right. So it's very, very important to check in with your client and just say, look, a month ago or a couple of months ago, we spoke that we wanted to achieve, 100,000 in sales by the end of the year. Is that still our plan? What are we thinking? Are we on track with it? Just making sure that everybody has objectives and achievables in mind. And if we can get into that way of thinking, let's always have a target. Let's always have an achievable. Let's always have an objective. It makes it much easier for us to think about what it is that we're trying to do here. So every client should have a plan and every plan should be on track to being executed well. All right. Now, if a client sees their plan become stagnant due to lack of growth on a digital agency side, they may be inclined to leave. Now, there's a very, very big factor here, and it might be a seemingly obvious one, that if we are not doing what our client expects us to do, and we're not reaching expectations, our client may be inclined to leave, and that's fair enough, okay? However, there is a very, very important sub point to add on to this, and that sub point is that if we have not defined clearly what those objectives are, the line then becomes very blurred and it becomes a very big gray area as to whether we're actually achieving or we are not. And that doesn't feel good for us. It doesn't feel good for the client. It leaves us in this kind of funny middle ground where we're not completely sure what the next step is because we're doing all right, but we can't really say for sure that we're on track to doing something great. So very important to have this clarified and cleaned up with the client. Make sure that we're always moving along the same path. All right, so that brings us to the end of topic number 1. I'll give you a brief pause now to jot down any notes, catch up on the slide and ask away with any questions that you might wish to ask as well. So please do. We've already got one question in today, so I'll be more than happy to answer that for you at the end of today's session. I'm just going to go ahead and give us that pause and I'll see you again in just a moment's time for topic number 2. All right, so let's get to talking about topic number 2, where we're going to discuss continual contact with our client. Okay, so we're talking about what digital agency clients need from us as digital agency owners and leaders. Okay, now your clients are your bread and butter. Now, if you're not familiar with this term, it's a business term typically used for something that provides consistently for the business. All right. So this really helps provide your revenue for the digital agency. They must be prioritized. Okay. Now, You could say, technically speaking, all clients are bread and butter, but what we really mean here is you need to bring clients in, protect the relationship with them long term so that they continue providing for your business. Of course, your business would potentially not exist if you didn't have clients or customers. All right. So it may exist, but it won't be making very much money. So we really need to make sure that we're prioritizing clients, we're taking care of them long term, and we're ensuring the success of our own business long term by helping in the success of other businesses. Because as digital agency owners, we are in the profession of helping other people succeed, other businesses succeed. All right. So the better our clients do, the better we're going to do as well. So if we lose contact with our clients, or we allow a significant amount of time to pass before contacting them again, they can lose interest. And this is something that can happen very easily. We're busy, our clients are busy. It's not always deliberate, but we can actually begin to lose contact. Now, the reason for that may simply be that there's been an email that's been missed, or we had to reschedule a meeting, but nobody put in a time for the rescheduled meeting. So time just goes on and on and on. And if you're not careful, it's very easy to almost forget about each other. Okay. Now, if this happens, a significant amount of time goes past, and we begin to question the working relationship, both on your side and on the side of the client. Now, on your side, you begin to wonder, well, is this client serious about growing their business, investing in their plan that we discussed, and continually driving their own business forward with our help? And on the client side, they begin to wonder, are they hitting the objectives that we discussed? Should I keep working with them? Should I keep spending my fees with them? Should I keep doing all of these things? Now, whilst this might not be a conscious thought pattern, it is something that can very much occur. And the reason we need to be careful with that is if enough time goes past, our clients begin to, almost in the back of their minds, question why they're still paying the fees for us, why they're paying advertising fees or any other costs associated with us as well, if we're running campaigns with them. And eventually they'll say, I don't think it's making that much of a difference to my business. I'm actually just going to leave it there. Or I can't remember what we last discussed because it was so long ago. I'll just leave it there. Or I have a new idea, a fresh plan, because I've forgotten about my original plan. I'll just leave it there. Okay. Now, in my experience, if you lose contact, this almost always happens. It's very rare to speak with a client after 3 months and they're still happy and motivated and excited and on the same plan as you both originally discussed. These things require continual work, continual communication to make sure that we're staying on the path that we originally laid out. It's very easy as individuals to veer from the plan that we originally decided on because something new comes along and we almost forget about the plan that we had originally discussed. Now, it's our job and our responsibility to make sure that this does not happen. They are our clients, therefore they are our responsibility, and making sure that we are doing our part in the deal and our part in the plan is our responsibility. We have to make sure that we're doing this with our clients. Okay. We have to work as a team, as a almost, not officially, but as a partnership to make sure that these things happen. Now, you can stay in regular contact by telephone, email, WhatsApp, online, in person, whatever makes sense. Okay. If you live near the client, you might like to meet for coffee. You might like to meet at a nice venue. However, you might like to go for lunch. Whatever makes the most sense for you to do that. If it's an online conference or if it's just catching up on the phone for 30 minutes once a month, okay, or once a week, whatever makes the most sense. Now, there's a very important side point here is that no two clients are the same. No two businesses are the same. And it's very important that you establish how you're best going to communicate with that client. Because once you've established this theory, this method, it then becomes consistent. If we try and force our own ideas of what we believe is the best form of contact on our client, such as, I really, really like to meet in person, they might be very, very busy or they might live far away and it's just not very practical for them to do that. And if that's the case, they might turn up for the first one or two, but eventually they're going to realize and decide, actually, this really doesn't work for me. It's very inconvenient, etc., etc., etc. So we have to make sure that we're catering to whatever it is that our client needs, as long as, of course, we can keep up with it consistently as well. And we're happy with it because client working relationship works both ways. But we have to make sure that we're staying in regular contact. And in order to do that, we've got to find the easiest method, the path with least resistance, if you like. Okay? So stay in regular contact by telephone, email, WhatsApp, online, in person, whatever makes sense for you both. Now, simple strategies such as posts on social media relating to your working relationship with your client can help maintain contact. If you have permission, you can post about them, the success that they're getting, the results that they're getting. You can also just generally post and they'll see that you're still active. Now, posting on social media is often overlooked in the sense of being reminded continuously that we are around, okay? So if our client sees us post a few times on social media, they might say, oh yeah, I need to catch up with Ben actually. What's he up to? What's he doing? How's my, account getting on? Okay. So a simple side point to social media is also reminding our clients and people that are interested in working with our business that we're still around, we're still doing great things, okay? And we need to make sure that we're always in the eye of our consumer. And our consumer at this point in time is, of course, our client and our prospective clients, okay? So that brings us to the end of topic number 2. In just a moment's time, we will go on to topic number 3, the third and final topic of today's webinar conversation. But just before we do that, we're going to do another brief pause to catch up on the slide, make sure that you have all the notes that you wish to take, and indeed ask away with any more questions that you wish to ask. And as we said at the beginning, we will get those questions answered for you at the end of today's webinar session during the Q&A segment. And thank you ever so much for everybody that's asked a question so far. So I will do a brief pause and I will see you again in just a moment's time. Perfect. So let's move ourselves on to the third and final topic of today's webinar conversation. Excuse me. Reassurance and faith in your ability. Okay, so it's normal for clients to have a bit of a wobble if their intended growth plan is not on course. Okay, so the way of the world, things don't always go as we expected them to go. Now, at this point, if this occurs to you, in my view, you have one of two choices. You can either ignore this and hope that the client doesn't notice, or you can be upfront and you can reassure your client. I would very much recommend the latter. It's always important to stay proactive and help your clients and reassure them that if we're not on track now, here's our plan to get back on track, or here's why we're not on track, but here's a solution. So, final point on that, never simply present a problem. Present a problem with a proposed solution to solve said problem, okay? It's a very good way to approach difficult situations or difficult conversations. You say, hey, things aren't going perhaps as well as we'd initially intended, but here's our plan to get us back on track. Clients like to hear positive things. So even if you have to deliver slightly negative news, put a positive spin on it by saying, look, we didn't get the results that we wanted last month. Here's why. We've done the research, we've done the calculations, we know why that happened, or we at least have an idea of what's going on, even if it's nothing to do with us, if it's, something else affecting it, external factors. Here's our plan to overcome those external factors and get ourselves back on track. So it is normal for clients to have a wobble, okay? It's never plain sailing. Again, in my experience, it's never just as easy as, hello, 1, 2, 3, job done, okay? It's always more work than that, and it's always going to take a little bit of navigating through tricky waters sometimes. So during times of doubt, it is important to reassure your client that you're on the right path and business growth is never smooth sailing. All right. So if your client is trying to grow their business with your help, let them know, even for yourself, that it's not always plain sailing. It's not always a straight path to the finish line. Okay. Whatever the goal is, we have to make sure that we're willing to navigate obstacles and difficult moments in order to achieve said goal, because they do happen. It's part of life. It's part of business. And we have to make sure that we keep pressing forward in the most productive way. And the best way to do that is by ensuring that we're on the same page as our client at all times. We're proactive. We're letting them know what's going on. We're bringing them solutions. Okay. So continual contact and reassurance builds faith in your ability as a service provider and maintains strong links with your clients long term. Okay. If you think about a very good friend that you have, that's likely been built on a foundation of continual communication. Okay. making sure that you are building good rapport, that you're establishing a working relationship, and everything is going the way it's intended to go, okay, as far as possible. Now, one thing that you do have control over is your efforts of contact, your efforts of reassurance if something's not going completely right. And what this does is it builds faith in your ability, because even if things aren't going exactly as you intended, your actual skill and ability to deliver is only one part of the overall business service that you provide your clients. The other parts are communication, assistance, advice, overcoming obstacles, okay? There are lots more to the service delivery aspect than simply doing the job in hand. We have to go further than that, okay? So continual contact and reassurance, this builds faith in your ability as a service provider. It maintains strong links with your clients long term, which is extremely, extremely important. So it's significantly more costly to find a new client as opposed to keeping a current one, okay? If you keep a current client, hopefully they keep paying the fee, they keep paying the regular monthly invoice, the money keeps coming in. If you lose this long-term client, you then have to reinvest likely in advertising funds. You have to then go through the process of the temporary income loss. You then have to go through the process of signing the new client, establishing a new relationship with them. A lot more time, effort, and money is involved in getting new clients regularly, as opposed to trying to win new clients all the time, of course, but keeping your current clients long term, okay? We don't want to go one step forward and two steps back. We want to go two steps forward and potentially from time to time, one step back, okay? So significantly more costly to find a new client as opposed to keeping a current one. All right, so that brings us to the end of today's webinar presentation. So in just a moment's time, after another final brief pause, we're going to do a recap and then we will dive onto the Q&A segment of today's webinar session. All right, so I'll see you again in just a moment's time. Perfect. So let's go on to the recap for today's session. Remember that your clients have a plan in mind, okay? And our job is to help them execute said plan. Number two, stay in constant contact with your clients. Please do not let communication drop. Please do not let constant contact drop with your clients. Otherwise, we run the risk of potentially losing that client. And finally, reassure your client during times of uncertainty. Okay, so it's a very, very big element. It's a very, very important factor, reassuring our clients to make sure that if things are looking a little bit uncertain, that we have a plan to pull it back on track. So, as always, a massive thank you for taking the time to join us on today's webinar presentation. It's been an absolute pleasure, as always. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull the questions up that I have from everybody on today's webinar. And if you would like to talk to a member of our team, you're more than welcome to head over to iob-business.com/talk. On this link, you can book a call at a time that suits you. And when you follow this link, you'll see a calendar just like this one, and you can select a date and time that makes the most sense for you, which is perfect. So I'm going to leave this link up on screen for you whilst I go ahead and answer the questions that I have from today's session. First question I've got is absolutely fantastic. So what if my client is very irritated and wants to leave? Great question. So let's answer it. What I would recommend you do is look for the source of irritation, okay? You need to know what's going wrong. You cannot fix a problem if you do not know what's causing the issue, okay? So calm the situation, okay? Rationalize the situation. Make sure that you understand fully what's going on. So there might be a bit of anger, there might be a bit of emotion, there might be a little bit of irritation. What we need to do is make sure that we calm the environment down, that you remain calm and composed, and you simply ask, what's causing the issue? What is it that's not going right? Okay. Now, once we understand that, we then begin to understand the source of the frustration, and we can begin solving the problem. So the irritation, if you like, is a factor because a problem is occurring. Understand the problem, seek to solve the problem, and you may find that the irritation begins to go away. Okay. They are not simply irritated with you. Most likely they're irritated at the situation. So seek the source of the irritation, find out what the problem is, seek to solve the problem, remain calm and composed. Hopefully things will calm down with the client and you can continue moving forward as before. Great question. Hope that answers that for you. Next question, my clients often don't get back to me. Perfect. So we're focusing on client relationships today, which is perfect because we have just done a presentation on that. So that's wonderful. So the answer here, continue doing your part, okay? If your clients often don't get back to you, really the best that you can do is stay in touch in ways that you've agreed to stay in touch with them. Keeps a track record of your points of contact, importantly, okay? It's good to say, yep, I did send you, 4 emails last month, or I have been texting you, I have been calling you, trying to figure out what's going on. So the only thing that you can truly control here is your own efforts. If you're continually trying to get in touch with the client and they're continually ignoring you, then, there's really not a lot that you can do unless, you want to kind of maybe try and show them again why you're doing what you're doing. So if you feel like they've lost interest, there's not really any harm in reiterating, I wouldn't be doing my job as a service provider to you if I didn't let you know that we could be achieving significantly better results with these slight changes, but I need your confirmation before we can get these changes done. For example, just one idea. I hope that helps. It's a brilliant question, and I hope that the answer is good for you. All right, do we have any more questions? No, looks like that is us for today's webinar session then. So as always, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time to join us today. And I look forward to seeing you again on the next iOB business webinar. Take care and bye for now.